Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new to this channel, do well to press the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you will be notified anytime I upload videos like this. Let's get started. So in my previous video, I used this query right here to analyze whether verification status and the grade of a borrower has any influence on whether the borrower will default on his payment. So the data set is what you see right here, and this was the query I used. Now in this video, I'm going to try and use temporary tables, CTEs, and window functions to try and do the same analysis and see how it goes. So the question is still the same. That is, we are going to identify loan default rate by verification status and credit grade. Now the first thing I did in this video was to create a temporary table. So as you can see, I used my create temp table, and the name of the verification table that I created was verification status category. So that was the name for my temporary table, and the content of the temporary table is as follows. So I selected everything in the financial loan data, and I also decided to now create a column that will select the various verification status. So I use my case one as usual to assign the same name, which is if the verification status is verified, I then assign verified, because this was done to just create a different column which will bear the same entries as the verification status column. Now this might look like it's not really important because it's only making the whole thing lengthy, but bear with me as we go through this, because the focus in this particular video is mainly for the usage of temporary tables, CTEs, and Windows function to do what you can do without them in the first place. So just bear with me and let's get through with this. That is not to say that temporary tables, CTEs, and Windows functions can't be used for other things, but I'm just using it in this case to showcase that it can also be used to do simple things like we did in the previous video. Now I will leave the link for the previous video in the description below. So at this particular point, that is the step 2, I created my CTE, and my CTE was named loan performance. So loan performance was the name of my CTE, so I created this with loan performance as then the content of it. I used my query select verification category, verification status. Then I selected the grade, selected the loan status, and I used the Windows function at this particular point to get the count partitioned over the verification status and grade. Now what happened, if you realize, what happened here was I was trying to use the verification category. However, I ended up using verification status, meaning both of them contain the same entries, so nothing actually happened that was wrong in this coding, because the two columns in this particular video bear the same entries. So let's put that aside and focus on what is going on in our CTE. So in our CTE, as you can see, we used our Windows function. That is, we counted over the partition verification status and grade. Now what that partition by does is that it makes sure that the counting that is taking place is done in relation to the verification status and the grade. So if we have a verification status like, let's say, source verified, when SQL picks the source verified verification status, it goes into it and checks for all the grades that can be associated with that, and does the counting of the number of loans that are being associated with each particular grade. So if we have grade A to G in this particular data set, what it does is when it picks the verification status, let's say source verified, it goes into source verified and look for grade A. All the entries that are associated with grade A count them and assign the value, goes to grade B. That same and assign the value goes to grade C. That same till it gets to grade G. Then it moves on to the next verification status. So basically that is what happened here in this particular CTE. Now we come to our step 3, and in my step 3 what I did was the main query. That is, I was done with my CTE, I was done with my temporary table. So now I decided to find out the default rate and its relationship with verification status and the grade of a borrower. So looking at it, I just selected my verification status, but in this case I went back to correct the verification status and I went in for the verification category like I stated earlier, went for mine, grade, and all the other columns that were needed to make this whole analysis quite easier. So I did all that. At this particular point I decided to calculate my default rate, so I used my round function to do that. So the charged off count was calculated in the CTE, and that's the line that starts with the sum case when load status equals charge off and all that. That particular part was also done with a Windows function, and the partition was done just like it was done in the count, by verification status and by grade. So we look at the default rate, and as you can see, we rounded off the whole thing to 2 decimal places. That is, we counted the charge off, then we multiplied it by the total loans that were issued out, multiplied it by 100, and we rounded it off to 2 decimal places. Now with the next line, what we are trying to do here is to find out the average of what we have done, that is the default rate, in terms of what verification category. So we want to find out if we pick the verification category, let's say verified, that is all the borrowers whose documents and informations were verified. We want to find out the average, that is the average of default. We wanted to find the average in terms of each verification status. Now this particular part can be done using a sliding, that is the running averages in Windows function, but let's not go there for now. Maybe I will try that in maybe my next video or maybe subsequent videos on this channel, but today let's just focus on using the partition by and not go into unbounded preceding and unbounded following and all that. So I use the Windows function, or let me say, Windows function to check the average in terms of the verification category. That is, we want to find the average when we pick, let's say, the verification category verified. What is the total average of defaulting, that is the default average for that particular category. Then when we pick source verified to, what is the average for that particular category. When we pick not verified to, what is the average for that particular category. That's what we did in the first one. Then the next one was we did that by grade. We wanted to find out that if you pick grade A, what is the average default rate? What is the tendency that a person with grade A credit, or a person with a credit grade A, will default on his or her loan payment? When you pick grade B, what is the percentage, or what is the what are the chances that a person within that grade, or the person that has that grade, will do or default in his loan? So we did that basically, and we ran our query to see if everything is all right, and voila, everything worked perfectly. So we now have our answer in this particular table. And when you take a look at this table, you realize that this table has been ordered by verification category and grade. So you can see we have the not verified, we have the source verified, and we have the verified categories. When you come to the grade 2, you can see that for each particular category we have the various grades in there from grade A to grade G. When we go to the next part, which is the total loan, we can see that the loans have been arranged according to each grade as we programmed it to happen. When we look at the default rate 2, we can actually see that the default rate increases down the grade. That is, as the grades decrease to G, we realize that our default rate increases. This point right here seeks to suggest that the tendency that the person who has a poor grade, or the probability that the person who has a poor grade would default on his or her loan payment, is very high. Because when you look at the table once again, you realize that the default rate for grades like D, E, F, for any of the categories, be it not verified, source verified, or verified, is quite huge. But when you check that of grade A, you realize that it's 5.7, around that area, 5.72, and you can see that it's basically small. Yes, and you also check this table very well, and you get to realize that for the various A categories, the percentage or the default percentage is quite small. You realize we have 5.7 to 5.7 and 6.03 or something. It's always very small. So it means that whether a person's document or particulars are verified or not verified, if the person has a good credit score, the tendency that the person will pay his or her loan is very high, because the tendency that they will not pay is very low. I don't know if you get the drift right here. Now, there is a lot to get from this output we have here. When you check the default rate, one thing that is vital to mention is that it ranges from 19.8 or so up to 20 point something. Generally speaking, that means that it is very huge, because no one is ready to throw away that huge percentage. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it for others to see. Remember, if you are new on this channel, do well to hit the subscribe button and tap on the bell icon so that you get notified anytime I upload videos like this. Bye, and catch you in the next one.